December of last year, Jim Solar mentioned to Vernadal and myself that a big solar eclipse would be coming in 2024. The best predicted weather and longest duration would be in southern Texas. So Verna and I thought it would be fun to combine a trip to the eclipse with a driving tour of the Southwest. Even planning that far ahead, the closest place we could find to stay was in Carrizo Springs, over an hour's drive away from the epicenter.
Dick and I left Fairfield early, heading east on Highway 50. We stopped in Placerville, sometimes known as Hangtown. We enjoyed the western shops. Later we stopped at Bridalveil Falls and the South Fork of Carson River, taking photographs, of course. The next day, Dick's daughter Shelley toured us around Carson Valley, stopping at the oldest watering hole in Nevada, known as the Genoa Bar. Of course, Dick had to take a close look at the two nude models painted in the 1800s that hung over the bar. An interesting feature of Genoa is this tall bronze statue of Snowshoe Thompson. The next morning, we headed south on Highway 395. Dick and I wanted to see the Red Rock Canyon near Las Vegas, since neither of us had been there before. We saw this ugly gargoyle sticking out of the rock. It looked like Darth Vader, and I swear he winked at me.
After spending the night in Las Vegas, we headed east toward Monument Valley. On this leg of our trek, we saw many colorful red rock outcroppings. We stopped a few times for photo opportunities and a mugshot or two. When you first get to Monument Valley, it's kind of like you stepped into a different world. The red sandstone formations rise dramatically from the desert floor, and I think the vastness of the terrain with deep shadows and vibrant hues makes you think that nature's artistry is on full display here. It's very beautiful. We learned that the formations and the holes like this were carved from the soft sandstone by wind erosion primarily. As you may know, one cannot take a tour of the valley on their own, and this is because it's a Navajo land and you must go with a native guide. That's why Verna and I toured in an open Jeep with a young and very nice, knowledgeable Indian lady. She took us deep into the valley where we experienced some beautiful vistas. We even saw a few wild horses.
Later in the day, as we were touring Monument Valley and the wind became fierce, this is a photograph that depicts a dust storm occurring early spring due to seasonal temperature changes.
Good.
Waking the next morning, we were blessed to see this beautiful sunrise.
The following morning, we headed south to the city of Kayenta, Arizona, we wanted to visit Canyon de Chelly. It's located on the Navajo Indian Reservation there. We hired a Navajo grandmother as our tour guide and jeep driver. She drove right up the middle of the river and took us deep into the canyon.
At one point, I left the jeep to take a photograph. The wind was so extreme that I could not turn and re-entered. Dick had to help me. After a few minutes, we decided to roll down our windows and shoot rather than exiting the jeep. Boom! I thought someone was shooting at us. Now I was lying on the back seat when I realized the rear window had shattered. When the pressure inside the jeep changed, the window blew out.
We learned the Anasazi Indians, who were cliff dwellers, had occupied this area of Canyon de Chelly over 2,000 years ago, and we saw several settlements like this.
We were surprised to see wild horses in the area.
We set off early the next morning for the longest leg of the trip. We stopped in Old Town Albuquerque because Dick had lived there for over 8 years in the Air Force. Traveling on, we arrived in Carrizo Springs the day before the eclipse. The sky was overcast and not favorable for viewing the event. We discussed this with Jim Solar and Ann Moxley, who are up in Uvalde, about 60 miles north of us. Verna and I decided to drive east to Eagle Pass, where the forecast was more favorable. When we arrived there, I made a left turn and we almost were forced by traffic to cross the Rio Grande and drive into Mexico. Verna freaked out and told me she would never get out of the car in Mexico. Seeing a total eclipse of the sun for the first time is kind of a surreal experience. The sky darkens, the temperature drops. You kind of have an eerie, otherworldly feeling. Unfortunately, it was still overcast when we watched the eclipse, but it was still very moving and beautiful. At the moment of totality, when the moon completely covers the sun, it leaves you in awe because the sun's corona, the halo of light, becomes visible. Makes a mesmerizing spiritual scene. At totality, it suddenly cooled, the birds started squawking, and the field lights came on. That's when Verna snapped this shot. I found this image online that I wanted to show. It's an interesting time lapse taken during the eclipse. The next stop on our trek was Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. This was on Verna's bucket list, and we made reservations about a month in advance to get in.
After losing our way, arriving in the dark of the night, we finally found our motel near Carlsbad Caverns. The next morning, we drove to the park headquarters to begin our tour. Taking an elevator down 400 feet, we stepped into a dark alcove. Continuing on, we are overwhelmed by the vastness and beauty of this underground creation. Entering Carlsbad Caverns is like stepping into another world. The vast, cool darkness greets you. As your eyes adjust, immense size of the caverns become apparent. The colossal chambers covered with stalactites and stalagmites creates an otherworldly landscape. Some of them resemble a delicate chandelier, and others are like towering pillars. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional drip of water echoing through the chambers.
Our next stop on the trip was Sedona, Arizona, where we spent the night. The following morning, we got up early and drove north about 2 hours through the beautiful Oak Creek Canyon area. Our first destination was the famous Horseshoe Bend on the Colorado River. It was then just a short drive to the Glen Canyon Dam and adjacent bridge over the Colorado River. Our next stop was at an Indian trading post where we met some of the locals. Verna did a little shopping in the adjacent gift shop that was filled with some Indian treasures. Finally arrived at the whole purpose of this leg of our trek, the awesomely beautiful Antelope Canyon. Antelope Canyon was formed through the process of erosion by flash flooding. We are told that over millions of years, water from seasonal rains rapidly flowed through the narrow canyon, carrying sand and debris. And this abrasive force carved the soft Navajo sandstone, creating the smooth, flowing walls and intricate shapes which the canyon is famous. The constant erosion deepened the canyon and smoothed its surfaces. Now, while the interplay of light and shadow within the narrow, twisting passage, it creates an iconic, surreal appearance that draws visitors from around the world.
Forestry Underground Gardens in Fresno, California is listed on the National Registry of Historic Places. Forestry, a Sicilian immigrant in the early 1900s, bought unseen 100 acres in the San Joaquin Valley. From Italy, he brought slips of citrus trees. His dream was to become a citrus farmer. However, upon arriving in Fresno, he found the land was barren and hard-pan soil and a hot, arid climate. Using only a pickaxe, shovel, and wheelbarrow, he sculptured unique underground gardens. The citrus trees grew in these earthen tunnels 20 feet below the ground under a large area open to the sky. The openings allowed rainwater to collect. These tunnels remain cool in the triple-digit valley summers.
Our final leg was up Highway 99 to Paradise Valley Estates. It was good to be home again, and we thanked God for a safe trip.